But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to World Blockchain Roundtable. This is episode 122. Is that 123? I think either way, it is our host today. Sorry, the notes are a little off. Our host today are Lisa from the Mighty Lair, Greg from Rivet, Sean, everyone's great friend, and I'm Joe from Dragon Chain, the Master of Ceremonies. First, a quick update on the WBRT Lair Ownership Tokens distribution from last week's episode. Every host will receive 111 lot. Every topic contributor will receive 27 lot. Last week's theme was blockchain for flight rewards programs, as nominated by Jacob Wayne, who will receive 27 lot. These ownership tokens come with perpetual passive income, free edits, and most importantly, governance votes to change the show. An update for the Roundtable DAO. The October theme vote is up. I've already voted. I reserve the right to change my vote before it closes out. I voted on a thing that I think dark web looks the most interesting, but if we need a little more votes somewhere else, I'll gladly. There are a couple of other really good potential topics here, right? So I don't know what you guys want to talk about, but
oh man, there are some good ones in here.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto 6 is on there too. So
Grand Theft Auto 6.
I don't know what that's on there for.
It's like maybe one of the OGest metaverses there is.
Yeah, maybe it's what does blockchain have to do with that, or how could it be used, or who knows? Anyway, go vote on that if you have any lot. It's awesome. And the theme of the week this week is today, past, present, and future of blockchain tech, as nominated by I Am for I Am. Sorry, it was covering it. My notes are all screwy today. So let's see here. We can go straight into questions. Is that what it's been a while since I've hosted, right? John's been hosting for a while, so trying to make sure I remember precisely. So we just go straight to questions, right? And then we can cover whatever and see what pops up. So we have two from I Am for I Am. So thank you again. So first, past blockchain conversation should include the big fork debate and the birth of Bitcoin Cash. Damn you, Adam Back. So I agree. That's probably one of the most important, at least the biggest events that happened in the past. We could. I don't know how you guys want to answer this, or would you like? Maybe we prefer. Let's split this up into three sections. So let's see what the next question is, and then we'll roll back, and maybe we can get them all, in some type of a timeline. Anyone wants to talk about past projects that had good teams? That would be awesome. That would fit in. Okay, yeah, and then the next, AI is the new thing. It's taking away from blockchain as a focus culturally. This is true. Will we ever recognize that decentralized systems are better at many things versus centralized AI options? Excellent question. So we have past and future there. Present is a freaking crazy quagmire. So let's go with the past first, right?
Yeah.
What do you guys? So to answer the question on what projects were there that showed promise, right? What do you guys think? Let's see here. I'm going to refresh my set of questions too, so I can see it. I guess you have the big block debate, but that was even not the super past. Like
Right.
you go to the very,
Sure, yeah.
very early days, and I
You
think
guys remember Made Safe? Are they still around?
I remember them. I don't know, right?
I'm gonna see if they're still. I don't know if they're still around or not.
So
Made Safe, and it's spelled like the maid at like someone who cleans your house in the colonial era of Britain.
I'll say as for the past, like say prior, and maybe one of the reasons that we led to the big block debate was that in the very early days of Bitcoin, it was still mostly very much felt like an open source software project, like Linux. It even had about the same, I would say, the same amount of toxic debate as you would get on other open source projects. I mean, there's always been culture in some projects of I guess what would be very heavy debate that could get nasty occasionally, and sometimes the projects would fork off. And there are several projects in the past where disagreements developed among the developers, and the beauty of open source is that you can say, okay, well, let's just separate, right? And you can basically take the code both directions, and essentially it becomes a big competition. And Bitcoin, in my opinion, felt like that in 2011, 2012, 2013. It felt like that, and it was an interesting period of time, but it led to when people realized how important it was going to be, and how valuable it was going to be. You got a lot of people in there that don't typically show up in open source projects because there's not money involved. Or you had bankers, and you had people who were very heavily influenced by the financials, and they started to do things that didn't quite fit what a lot of us thought the ethos was. It was very weird. So I don't know. Do you guys? What do you guys think about from that time? Even if we're talking about 2016 and the block size debates and everything else, between then and now, what would you guys point out?
I think what we found out is that, just from my standpoint, is that the market kind of decides, right? As always, these debates are sort of preferential, tribal in the short term, but qualitatively weighing the approaches in the long term. So, like the things that die out for a damn good reason, right?
Sometimes. Not always.
Well, it's not always a positive reason for a good project, right? There are some things that get killed for things that are understandable. When I say good reason, I mean an understandable reason, right? The direction we have headed with that, it was sort of taking this middle road as opposed to going with big blocks or small blocks across the boards. In most chains has hewed towards larger blocks and faster block times, right? And yeah, the smaller block, longer block time approach does allow for more decentralization among nodes.
I don't think that's true, but
well, I mean,
theoretically, okay.
If you're talking about wanting a future where people can afford to run the infrastructure on their home hardware.
Yeah, that's a bullshit argument that they used forever, because they're essentially saying that hardware is never going to get cheaper.
Well, I mean, and on top of that, they're suggesting that people are going to want to run their own infrastructure ever.
Right.
Like the idea that some normie is going to want to pop up in his laptop and be frustrated that his infrastructure isn't going to run for his network isn't going to run on his own home computer that he bought 5 or 6 years ago. Like, kind of absurd. But it was the argument to me that that situated the moral high ground such that you could argue against big block. And that's I think that's how we got to where we have this sort of compromise leads to sort of a mediocrity there. And I feel like there's probably more room for innovation, but the markets seem to have chosen a middle way.
The markets. Anyway, what do you think, Lisa?
Sorry, I had my mic muted. My dogs thought they were alone because my husband left the house, and so they were howling in the other room. So I apologize. I had to
Sorry.
run in and get these little turds. I'm not the technical one with you guys. So I think you guys have, a much better perspective on this. My very limited experience with Bitcoin Cash was that my husband tried seeing if it was faster the other day than Litecoin, and I can confirm that it is not. And it was a very bad experience and took, I think, 6 hours or something to confirm a transaction. It was ridiculous. So I don't think that's winning or moving the ball forward. I was a little distracted, so I probably shouldn't chime in on too much more of the conversation. But I was listening to you guys talking about decentralization versus, and I think there's another point of conversation there that I'd love to pick your brains on, and that was more about like the distribution, because I don't know that there really is decentralization as much as maybe distribution. Maybe that's,
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the scale
way to
at
say
which you look at it, right? If you zoom way out of anything, it looks decentralized, right? It looks like we've got a decentralized world in the context of nation states, but because there are like 200 some odd of them, including micronations, you add in more. Like it looks decentralized, but it's not, right? And I think that
down. Yeah.
I think the further you drill down, the more the practical rubber meeting the road reveals itself.
The more you peel back the hidden stuff. Yeah. So hey,
right.
What do you think,
And
Sean?
to me, decentralization was always an ends to a means of permissionlessness.
Well, Roger Ver retweets something that he tweeted years ago that I said I used Bitcoin Cash the other day, and it took a few seconds. And it cost like half a penny, but I use it because it works, and I did. It works. And this was like, oh God, five years ago when we had the first, like when
Yep.
we had the massive backups on Bitcoin, and it was like it could be like $100 to send something. It was messed up.
Yep.
I think that the bigger, faster blocks was a good argument. I don't know what Lisa did on that on the gas price, but if I use Bitcoin Cash, it's fine. It's faster than Bitcoin. Litecoin, I think Litecoin works. That's another thing. It works, for paying for stuff. But there's Bitcoin Cash, and Bitcoin Cash is I think a bigger infrastructure and is used more because it's all across Asia. It's huge. It's used in stores and everything. IAM said something very odd, or not odd. He said something very normal. But now, when I think about it, it's odd. He said that Bitcoin is gold and Litecoin is silver. Scarcity opinion, which, if you look at it, there's more Bitcoin or there's more Litecoin than there is Bitcoin. It's like it's set up that way. And I don't know if you know this, everybody knows this, but the United States wasn't on a gold standard. We used to be on a silver standard. And silver was kind of the people's money. And people could go and turn that in for silver. But they would, because it's silver. And it was the people's, that's kind of always been the people's money.
The constitutional money. Yeah.
Then Grant, as president, took us off the silver standard and put us on the gold standard, which the average Joe, didn't have gold, couldn't afford that much gold. That wasn't the real money. That was the money of like merchants always, not people that bought a chicken, but people that bought, a truckload of chickens. Those are the ones that use gold for transactions. And to see that, I think, and now, everyone calls Bitcoin is really digital gold. It's weird how we've turned just this new frontier of electric money into the same thing it's always been. You've got your gold, you've got your silver, and you have all these other, shit coins for different, different things, which I guess you could legally, not legally, but you could kind of say that any of these tokens or coins that have utility for whatever they're used, for in their project, is almost like a barter system. Like, when you say anything is money, bullets are money, it's weird how we've made this structure the same way we have throughout history. It's just repeating itself in the digital age. I thought that was really weird.
Yep. There is and I heard this back a long time ago, but there's an apparent intent, if you Wizard of Oz, that it's the whole gold versus silver debate that happened turn of the 20th century, and where the yellow brick road was the gold standard, and she had apparently silver slippers, not ruby, and that it was a big political thing, very interesting. And I think all of those things, though, it's the Litecoin group, which is a great marketing that we're the silver to their gold, right? There you go. So you think about that. You also think, the funny thing to me was that, at the time it was hard to step back far enough to see what was really happening. But, there was censorship, by people who are supposedly in favor of liberty, or at least that's what, a lot of us came into Bitcoin for. But it was, literally, in my opinion, it was the bankers with unlimited funds. How much would it cost to buy out all the crypto OGs at the time, right?
Or just by the price movements, right? Like,
totally.
Still to this day,
you have unlimited money, and that's
the biggest
why
markets.
That's why if you are here for liberty, if you're in this industry for reasons that would either be related to liberty or related to empowerment of general public over the powers that be, and the Fed and all the rest of that, you have to be careful. And that's why I always say it: chasing the number, chasing the financials is going to get you manipulated. Right. Because they can whip and pull that stuff forever.
Oh yeah, well, and the propaganda tools that dupe people money into bullshit politically.
Yeah, why do you think FTX
in the arena of finance, right? Yeah, the pump and dump scheme is as old as
look what they're doing with Ukraine right now.
Against pump and dump scheme.
Yep, and I would argue all of the things that we've seen as supposed, I say real corruption in the blockchain industry has not been blockchain tech. It has been fully old world, long-standing ways to scam people, that they just happen to put a crypto face on it to get people excited and get money in fast.
Like what's the SBF guy's company? I forget about its name now.
FTX.
They for example are not a crypto company. Right. They operated a derivatives shop, and they engaged in shenanigans with their collateral.
And it's funny. It's funny.
It was still the same old derivative scam.
I had people in my sphere who had met him, who, and I, back when he was still the golden boy, right? I would ask, what gives with this guy? He comes from where? From nowhere? What, who the hell is this guy? Yeah. And they always, and I tell you, and this is the same for other people in the past, the same way, they always have this narrative, and it's not like this person is paid. It's just, this is what I heard. He's an arbitrage genius, and he made millions of dollars in arbitrage, and then did this. It's all fake. None of that was real. But that was
a secret power player coming from. It's like they try to create a Bill Gates myth for him, or like they try to pretend like Bill Gates came from nothing. That's not true. Bill Gates is family.
We know now Bill Gates was fake. We know now that that Zuckerberg was fake. These are not geniuses.
Now, I do think the ones that either get fired or almost get fired or really piss people off. Anytime you see the press railing against something really hard, up until recently, I think recently they've learned to use that, but But if you see, like, for example, early Apple computer, what Steve Jobs was trying to do to IBM, that pissed off a lot of people. He was an outsider. You can tell who the outsiders are by who they try to defenestrate.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and I think a lot of it
McAfee was another good example.
Yeah,
he didn't get to keep his position of power. What about Aaron Swartz? From founder of Reddit to victim of state suicide or state-induced suicide, right?
Yep.
This shit happens only where the most dangerous people are. The dangerous ones are the ones who don't want to play by the rules.
The disruptors.
The thing about SBF, I think that really was weird to me, is he blew up all so fast, but he was presented to everyone. To me, I saw it as like I'm not that into new music, especially hip hop, because I think it sucks so horribly.
You haven't heard any good hip hop. I got some for you.
Not lately. But it's it's like people are, hey, it's Little Baby Poo Poo Pants. I'm like, what? Who's that? Oh, he's the biggest thing, man. Little Baby Poo Poo Pants. He's hardcore, and it's almost like you don't know. It's like the Emperor's New Clothes. They give you're meant to feel like you're slow or you're behind because you don't know who this dude is, and that's how every interview, everyone was just like, oh, he's so awesome. Everyone knows he's awesome. You don't know he's awesome. You're stupid. And it's like, well, I think he's pretty awesome. Okay.
Did you ever do any FTX sponsored videos? I should ask that. Okay, all right. You should ask that because it's like we never did. I don't
had
know.
an account with them, but I didn't know that I had an account with them.
Well, it's probably through Blockfolio. I have an account with them because they bought Blockfolio, right? So
yeah. I was like something about I got emails and I was like, what?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There were some emails released recently of his dad or something asking for more money, kind similar to like a Biden situation.
Yeah, they did. They did gifts. They gifted him a $16 million property in the Bahamas, $10 million straight gift, $1 million a year salary. They got
apparently that's
political donations to his mom. They're now saying that might have been why they were trying to draw back on getting him with the Federal Election Commission, FEC.
Because of the mom's donations.
The mom would be implicated, and they're really protected apparently, right? Or at least, and this lawsuit, by the way, is not from the Department of Justice. This is, if I understand correctly, it's from the people who were stolen from. They got together and sued the parents because nothing was happening. That's my understanding. I'm not a lawyer, right? But
okay,
it's
interesting,
crazy, and so bringing that into the present, because there have been plenty of similar frauds in the past, both in crypto and out of crypto, right? But is it not odd that of all the groups that haven't been gone after, the entire Ethereum cartel has been
protected?
Yeah, you cannot touch them, right? And FTX, so all of these people are literally the ones that are sitting down with the SEC and sitting down with senators and doing all these things where, effectively, if frankly, for anything bad you might have to say about CZ, and this really kind of,
I'm a big fan of them, man.
He without what he did, or without him, and maybe it was just
he was the first to raise up the middle finger to the SEC, man. He was the first one to say, you know what, you're gonna have to square with the fact that we did this shit for a reason.
If that would not have happened, literally the SEC would have had Sam Bankman-Fried and his parents writing the freaking rules for all of us.
Oh yeah, no shit. I mean, they were in progress. The bill that Elizabeth Warren just is trying to get sponsors for right now. The bill that fucking the real ruler of the country, probably, if you look at the way that her aides flow into the Biden administration, the real ruler of the country. The thing that she's created, that monstrosity of a bill, that would outlaw private wallets or require you to have a brokerage license to hold one, for example. That's the shit that they were going to write for us.
Yep.
You know, they imagine our industry as a small one that services a small group of oligarchs, right?
Yep.
They don't see
And that
what bottling up this tech would do to
Yeah.
the rest of the future,
and
because
that
of
is-
it has so much potential to change other things. Like, I don't really
Yes.
honestly give a fuck about DeFi. DeFi I find boring. Finance
Yep,
is
same here.
really not that interesting to me.
Yep.
What's interesting to me is an integrated finance and other layers system. One that allows you to build financial incentives directly into the software that runs other things.
Yep.
And
that's
I
why
don't think they see that.
I will say the entire industry has turned into, in my opinion, a bunch of bullshit, little stupid toys and games that are mostly meaningless, but they rack up some numbers for a couple of months, and then they drop
And then
to
they
nothing,
fall apart.
and then
Yeah.
it happens again and again. Why? Because it's entirely, they're trying to push the entire technology into the square peg of a banker's box. That's all it is. Because
Right, they want
if
something
you don't
that
want to
they
be a
can
junior
still issue
banker,
bank
you
charters
have no
on,
business
right?
here. Yeah,
They
and
want
that's
a
all it
license
is.
to apply to be a part of it.
Yeah, and they want it to fit into those rules which govern the money.
They've been trying to suck all the
because-
permissionless goodness out of it without destroying the fundamental energy around it.
Yeah, which
And
they
that's all you
don't
can-
care about that either. They just want to suppress it because
Right. Well,
that
my
energy-
point being is that, but what I don't think they understand is that's the core essence of it. If you take that away from it, you've got a really overcomplicated Postgres database.
Yep.
You know, and we've been running those for a long time without all the difficulty in between them. And so if you're going to force the technology down that road, you're killing the technology, and they don't want to admit that. But that's the nature of the politics of tech, right?
It's crazy.
What pisses me off is what that does is kill things like, we're talking about projects that used to exist. You guys familiar with Foundry DAO? You remember them?
Yeah.
They came up with, for example, a little sub project called Die Hard, which was a way to do a permissionless, decentralized on-off ramp for fiat. Yeah, if you can imagine.
Also a Christmas movie.
What was that?
He said it's also a Christmas movie. Die Hard.
It is a
Christmas movie.
Yes.
It's a fair point.
Yeah.
So this one was spelled with an AI, so
That's funny.
Anyway, so
they still have the
So
side
that's
up.
past
It
and
says
present.
an unhealable hole in currency control is their tagline,
see,
right?
it's just, it kills me though that everything is solely currency, and we could go into the past and why Bitcoin versus the other projects. It was always my thought that they should be, and we should all consider them to be, perpetual competitors, whether they're currencies or other things. That it's a beautiful thing when you can, let's try them all, right? See which one works.
Well, I mean,
But certain
and to
people
a
don't
certain
want to
degree,
do
we
that.
haven't seen that blossom yet. I gotta say, we are early to write it off.
But the
Because
problem with us being early, that right now we're under the grip of Jamie Dimon. That there's
right,
it-
and that's my
it-
point. Is like, we need to build out the rest of the damn stack if we really want to see what people will do with the freedom to innovate. Because so far, what we've had is contained innovation because they found the choke points. And if we can get rid of the choke points, or at least take them out of control of the centralized players that are currently in charge, enough, not all the way, but just enough, then we'll really see some shit happen. But until then, we won't really see what's possible.
The problem, though, is it's too stagnant. In my opinion, too stagnant. There aren't enough new ideas. Why? Because anything that is not, flavor of the week BS, isn't getting money. It's not getting funding. It's not getting attention, which might be more important. Is the attention.
There's some. There may be some things that I know of that you haven't heard about yet because the people that are doing them are quiet.
And because they're not getting attention.
Well, I mean, they're intentionally being quiet
getting
about it while they
attention.
build it.
Yeah, if they're doing, things that are outside of that financial area, outside of the things that Lubin and Diamond want to see happen under their watch,
Yeah. Well,
the
there's
real rulers.
there's
So,
some stuff happening that I've been privy to recently that I'm excited about. That
That's
makes
good.
me optimistic again.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I'm optimistic long term because I know that even unlimited funds can only work for a couple of 100 years. So um, at some point, those that source, that spring of unlimited money
Oh, right.
is going to
Well, I think we see how it ends,
crash.
right? Either the banks that issue the debt will fail, or inflation will take off, and then the currency will fail, and that
Or
will be how it
both.
dies. One way or the other, it's gonna fucking fall over eventually. They're running out. They're running on a thinner and thinner line.
It hit 33
It's a
trillion.
narrowing
Our
tightrope.
debt was hit 33 trillion the other day, right? And then Zelensky is prancing his little pony feet up to the White House again
Yeah,
today.
he's speaking before Congress
Congress again.
today. Yeah,
To
kind of trying to
demand more money.
frame them into giving more money. When I hope he has to go through the homeless and all that to get there. But
Yeah, I wonder if he has to change Biden's diaper for him. Like, I honestly don't know what going to the White House does for anybody anymore, because obviously there's nothing going on there other than like a kind of abusive in the public
don't know.
spotlight old
Which
folks.
White House is it?
Yesterday-
Is it the studio one?
Well,
or
not
is
the
it
White House. Yeah, which White House?
Sorry, it's funny.
I think it is something something interesting is that there's a real push against age now. With McConnell, y'all saw him.
Oh yeah, with him doing having his moments of.
It was very sad.
It is sad. We also know he's not a turtle for sure, because if he was, he would have gone inside his shell.
Yeah, and the way his aide came up and was like, literally,
Who owns him?
literally, it was like, Grandpa.
Oh man, that was weird.
Oh my
Should
God.
the what came over to Mike was wow. Well, and what's her name? Senator Feinstein, who
It's
gave
like
up.
we're living in
Just
the last
say-
season of The
yeah.
Sopranos in that
Well,
old folks facility that's for people who are
somebody
mentally
should do
insane.
it, even if it's theoretical. It's like, okay, here's who, based upon evidence, here's who we think owns this senator, because almost all of them are, right? I've heard both Feinstein and McConnell have significant potential from Chinese Communist Party infiltration. Both of them have had people on staff at high levels, or a wife that
I
is
think
directly.
that made it real to people.
Yeah.
Like my grandfather. My grandfather lived to be 100 and they're not even sure. 104, 109, because they couldn't find his actual birth certificate because it burned down. So the courthouse burned down and it was lost. And then he got, dementia, so he couldn't remember. But the last few years, my unscrupulous cousin was just like, here, buy this, pay for this, sign this, and just bled all the money out. And everyone knows a family or has something like that that's happened. And I think when people saw that, they're like, oh, I know what's going on, and made it much more real. But I think that a lot of the people that are running for office now, they're bringing that up. It's like, these people are too old. They're way too old. But when they say that, they're bringing up a lot of stuff that they have no clue about. And a lot of it is technology, but a lot of people running for office are talking about crypto, and they're saying it in forms of money.
Well, I do wish, I've not seen anyone, and maybe you can tell me, if there were any politicians elected or running that would just make it known that this is the way for all of us to become wealthy, or at least all of us to have the ability to become wealthy, right? Because right now, frankly, there's not any real way in the Western world to move up as there was in the past. It's a very rare thing now, right?
Brandon Herrera is one of the biggest gun YouTubers there are. foul mouth dude. It's ridiculously young. I mean, weird. He's in his 20s, but he has like a gun manufacturing business.
Okay.
Also, he's he's doing quite well. But I think he has a few, like 4 million subscribers. But he's always been outspoken. Like when he was a kid, he worked for this. I forget what the name of it is, but it's like those people that travel around and try to sell stuff. Like magazine subscriptions or whatever, and they, they're like trying to. Anyway, he did that, but for young libertarians or something. But here in Texas, the senator that is from like San Antonio all the way to Austin. It's all of the border. It's all that. But he was Republican, and he voted for gun control. And he said, so this YouTuber's like, that's not gonna.
No.
That's not gonna fly. So he challenged him, and now he's running for Congress. And it's so weird because he was called before Congress to speak about the HEF. And then he met Gates and Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of them. And I knew he was going to do it. And then like 2 months later, he announced that.
How much of what do you think would have to happen for people to realize that we actually live in a one-party state? Because that, to me, when I see stuff like that, I hear
depends
like,
on which people you're
that's
talking about.
clearly straightforward.
Straightforwardly, I think it's more than
opposite policy.
I don't think there are those people anymore. I know Joe's going to say it depends on the people, but I think anyone who's open-minded has already made a decision and seen it.
Well, there's the trick, right? You have to find open-minded people. No, I will say a lot of let's just say anecdotally, family members that I know a lot of family members that still cling to trust of, let's say, the networks or the general media. This paper said this, or I saw this on NPR, heard this on NPR, right? That they still stick to that. And it's really funny because you'll bring up, well, what about X? And like, wow, that's really this, right? You bring up JFK assassination of all things, and they'll try to give some coping excuse as to why the government is holding that information back still, right? So it's just the craziest thing. And yet it's a radically smaller percentage. I remember when I was in my early professional career in the early 90s, mid 90s, let's say, in software world, that I read an article on Slashdot that to this day, it blew my mind that there was a case that was quickly settled and dropped and pretty much erased from anywhere it could be erased, where some Italian corporation was suing the NSA and the US government because they were able to prove that this information that was used to either short or essentially do insider trading against their stock could have only been had if someone was listening in to this board meeting. And so they basically proved that you had people listening in surveillance state. And when I brought this up to guys at work, and mind you, these were younger guys, and they were highly savvy technically, right? They knew how stuff worked, and they knew what was coming in the future, what was exciting. And I tell you, all of them thought I was just crazy. It's like, that's BS. That's not true, right? Now we know it is true, right? And so you talk about mid 90s to now, it blows my mind that there have not been pitchforks and torches in DC with a universal surveillance state. We're not supposed to be living in that kind of world, and everybody knows we do. Everybody knows. People, it's a meme that if you talk about a certain physical ailment or say what kind of food you like, you're going to see freaking ads, right? And people try to, it's Google listening to me, it's Apple listening to me, it's freaking all of them listening to you, and they're all owned. And that's, by the way, when somebody like I was on an interview this week, live interview with and it's actually pretty interesting. Marcus Ruiz Evans, and he's like interviewing people about separate a division in the country and what's causing it. Why is it there, right? So he's interviewing a lot of academics, and it's super interesting. But he was apparently his claim to fame was that he led or was involved in heavily one of the California secession movements, right? And they canceled him, and they put out fake info on him, and they did everything they could to destroy him. But anyway, in that, we were talking about it, and it's super interesting because he brought up the tech valuations, and in particular how why in the world is this Facebook, when it's not turning a profit, or why is it worth this, right? And I brought up the fraud and the bot user count fraud and stuff like that. But the crazy thing is, it's likely because they are literally owned by the people who have unlimited funds. So your valuation,
there's this funny little thing in the process of valuing. I think this is like maybe too inside baseball, but I still want to mention it. There's this funny little factor in venture capital finance and equity finance where they do a valuation and then they assign a risk premium. And this risk premium assignment is what gives a multiplier on these investment assets, right? So if you get if you have a risk premium of starting out, a very high risk premium, I guess, it serves as a multiplier in future rounds of fundraising. So the risk that this will fail is 100 times greater than the average company. This will go down to 10 times greater on the second fundraise, right? So 1 unit of equity will be discounted by 100 times this rate in the first round, and only 10 times this rate in the second round, where subsequent rounds that are lower risk fund the next one. So they get these huge valuations because what they imagine is when they go public, this is what this company will be worth if they keep going.
Oh yeah, but at the same time, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We did not know that JP Morgan was involved in Ethereum as we now know. And we don't even know all of it, right? We didn't.
I don't know. They were kind of doing that out in that was a lot of this.
And how much China was involved in paying for a lot of that too.
Yeah,
remember
if you knew where
when all that came out?
The fact they were doing it.
Well, I mean, because either Lubin or Consensus has been in multiple lawsuits, if I understand, still unresolved, because he or they gave that IP for MetaMask to the bank, to JP Morgan. And you think it's like, what? Of all groups, I can understand them say, oh, we're gonna hand this over to some project to handle it better than us. But
Joe, when you're talking about back in the 90s, just the mindset of people. Remember when the surveillance state was coming, like Britain, they were putting up cameras everywhere, and I remember everyone's like, oh wow, those people are nuts. That's so weird. We don't want these traffic cams that get you if you go through a red light. Yep. That was this huge, no cameras. We don't want Big Brother 1984. No. And just to go to where we're at now, it's so. But
now people submit their DNA to 23andMe and all that crazy stuff. I think about, Sean, when you're saying that, when my babysitter signed me up for Facebook back in the whenever that was, and I was terrified, and she was like, oh no, it's fine, and and she's like entering my information, and I was like scared to death of what I was being exposed to, or who was having access to me on the internet, but she had been on MySpace before that and all these other things, but it was a new terrifying experience to me. It was like somebody dropped me downtown on the corner,
Everyone has this defeatist attitude now where, well, I got my information already, who cares?
Yeah.
Voltaire said it's hard. It's very difficult to free fools from the chains that they revere.
Right. I mean, and it's really more these people are afraid to change their habits, because with a few habits, you can start to eliminate the accuracy of the picture of the data that they have on you. Right. It doesn't take long, for instance, to change a behavior like instead of using my card like a lazy person and shopping online like a lazy person, I'm going to go ahead and get out as much of my budget in cash as possible. And I'm going to walk to the store and leave my phone at home. Right? Like they're not going to be able to follow you if you do that, and they're not going to be able to tell what you're buying if you do that. And you can still do that. Yeah, the future can change, but
feel weird.
When
he said that, when he said, "Get a bunch of cash, go out to the store, and leave my phone."
Walk to the store, leave my phone at home.
I felt weird when you said that, like almost a little nervous.
Right, we're still free to do it though at this point, which is crazy. It's the thing we risk losing.
I saw this and it was weird. I didn't intend to watch the whole video, but it was so crazy and interesting. There's this dude who goes and just interviews, random people in different regions of the world, right? And he went to Appalachia, and he did a whole series in Appalachia. He went and talked to this one guy who he didn't have any. He had a phone that he shared with the farmer next to him, but he had no refrigerator. He had no running water. It was crazy. He didn't, and his birth certificate was lost in a flood, so he didn't exist essentially. But he owned this land, and he just lived, and it was just so super interesting because he was, it was really cool.
But that's what has to happen to be truly free. Yes. You have to become an unperson to the system, because otherwise you don't own anything, because the minute you register your car with the state, they own it, because if you don't pay your tag every year, they'll come get it. If you don't pay your taxes on your house, then they'll kick you out. Like, you don't own anything if you are registered to the state or you're part of the system. They own you.
Again, not necessarily true, right? It just adds a layer of complexity to what you have to accomplish, right? If you want to do that, then you have to take my get cash and go to the grocery store example and combine it with you have to lead a double life. You have to have one life that you own and one life that you live in public where they own you for free.
But also,
it looks like you're going along with the program.
When you own something, you don't really own it. It blows my mind. Like, my parents came to Texas, and they built a brand new house. They completely built it, and I understood that was our house. And then it was like 2 or 3 years later, it was Christmas. We're up in New Jersey, and we're talking about the taxes. And my aunt and uncle's house, they owned it because they're rich, but they still had to pay taxes. My uncle was always, I love my uncle. He was like my father, and he was telling me that they have to pay taxes for the house, and their taxes were more than my parents' mortgage. He's like, we don't really own it, because if we don't pay these taxes, they can just take it.
Right. The bank lets you live there, and your country lets you live there if you they don't come with guns if you pay the protection, but you're really you don't own it if you have any payments you have to
which is what we came to America to get away from. That's the irony.
Our taxes are so much greater than what King George was. Right. And King George is freaking libertarian, benevolent ruler compared to what we have now. Right. It's crazy, and it isn't America's
to join the Mencius Moldbug crowd and try to bring back the Stuarts.
I would say in 1913, America became a vassal state. Okay.
1887.
1887. Why do you pick that date, Lisa?
There's a contract. There's a. I'll have to send you guys the link. We signed something with. That's when we signed the thing with England, and we basically sold out or whatever.
Well,
and
the
that's
Fed
the
and
DC thing created.
IRS were created
the corporation
in 1913, and that's what they rule everything with. Right? There might be some other basis, but that is.
Yeah, well, the 1887 is like the creation of the corporation of DC, is my understanding. So that's prior to the IRS and the Fed and all that.
And it's all whether you see it as a form of how do they draw money out with the military-industrial complex, or is it a blood sacrifice? They want war, and they want
they
war
want
constantly.
both. Yeah.
They're talking now like they're going to look again at conscription. They want the draft back. Why? Because they can't get people to go to the military, because everybody knows that it's just a freaking meat grinder, and you're just going to go to war with Russia for some reason.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I don't know.
I remember the maddest I ever got my uncle, and one of the biggest arguments. There was a bowling alley that opened where I was living, and they had free hot dogs, free fries, and free bowling for the grand opening. And I was like, yeah, we all had lunch. It was free, and it was crazy. And my uncle's like, well, it wasn't free. I was like, yeah. He goes, no, Sean, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And I was like, no, Uncle Ted, there is. I had a free lunch the other day. And he's like, no, there's no. Someone had to pay for that. We went for like half an hour. He kept getting mad. I'm like, it was a free lunch. He's like, somebody had to pay for the food. And I was like, no, it was free. And then then he passed away, and now I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yep, it's relative. I think it's the there's some theory in there of free lunch relativity, right? To you it was free for sure, right?
Well, but that's that's the Google model where you're the product.
The fragmentation of reality that you get in this type
your
of
data.
system, right?
Yep.
If you're
I'll tell you,
willing to change your frame of reference to meet the facts that you're being asked to accept, right?
Yep. Well, and I'm going to tell you something that's very, I think everybody kind of recognizes this in the non-blockchain world. And the same thing applies to the blockchain world, that if you look at essentially that model is really, it's not a long-term model. That Google used to be a place that you could actually get an answer to something. They had all types of tools where it's amazing. It's like, oh, you just put your put your FedEx link in there, and now it is horrible.
They've even started to nerf the doors, like the tricks
yeah.
you could use to get specific results.
Yes,
they've started to make it so that you filter the freaking like if you're familiar with dorks, like you can do things like insight : and then type a URL and then type a search term.
File types you can do,
file types, all those things, like
cool things, but
those very specific operators, they're now starting to nerf the results that you can get from those.
Yep, exactly. And you can look at there are plenty of known examples of how they manipulate information, but
they're iterating over a system of manipulation in total.
Yep. Whereas if it was instead set up, just pulling this out of nowhere, but something like a behavior-based system where there were rewards for correct answers, and where you come to consensus, you would have a more organic and a longer lasting and a more flexible platform. Right.
And what we don't need are right answers. What we need are thorough answers.
Yeah, and it's not even, I shouldn't even say right answers, but there are some questions that right now I wouldn't trust Google with a math question, right?
Oh,
so
well, I mean, that you couldn't independently do yourself, right?
Right.
If you can verify it, then by doing it longhand, then you can probably trust it. Right. Although Wolfram Alpha still doesn't make their maths lie, which is good.
Oh, that's great. But they have a different philosophy too, right? I mean, it's a different model. So yeah, it's interesting.
I'm honestly surprised they haven't gotten rid of the Wolfram Alpha guy yet.
And beyond comprehensive answers, the other thing would be the diversity of answers, because you could ask some questions that there are multiple answers depending on who you ask. And right now, you aren't getting that. So
the only truth you can find on Wikipedia is in their revision history pages.
Oh, Wikipedia is a cesspool of evil bullshit. Wikipedia should probably be destroyed.
They've started archiving the results in the history. Like if you go back and you want to see what a change was, and it's a change where people are going back and forth on a political point. Now more often than not, you click on one of those and they'll say this has been hidden by.
Oh, totally. I've been involved in several of those.
That might be a good use case for that, though, is to see an argument, see a debate.
Right,
Like
right,
change,
and
change
that
the
to
use
me
case
is
for Wikipedia. Use it for that, but
right. I
don't
know
use
Well,
it should be.
for
that's the problem. It's all
authority.
behind the
The-
scenes. Like they have terms that are total BS. That behind the scenes, they have an entire ecosystem of people that get paid to vote certain ways. So if your
Right.
page is under attack, you have to go and pay several of these people with tons of like NDAs, and you can't speak about how we're doing this or anything else. And they go in because they have their positioned, and they basically vote whether or not we couldn't afford the other side. The other side
You're
was
kidding
either
me.
consensus or the banks. I don't know who, but they basically paid this one crusader to go in and take out all of the crypto projects because they were not historically.
Which is ultimately why what's his name? The guy that went to North Korea and allegedly gave them technology. What was his name? I can't think of his name.
Dennis Rodman. Now
no,
they can
no,
all
no,
play
not him.
basketball very well.
Not him. I'm
Isn't
talking
that
about the
Dennis
guy
Rodman?
who created Wikiscanner.
Really, I don't know this guy.
Scanner.
I think I remember that. Was it
A
where
Wikiscanner was created
did he go to a
by
crypto
Virgil
event
Griffith.
in North Korea? Like
Virgil
did he go to
Griffith.
their crypto days?
Yeah, Virgil Griffith spoke at a conference in North Korea, and when he came back, got arrested and accepted a plea deal that included some prison time, where he's still in prison
It's disgusting.
for allegedly giving them information they could have found on the freaking
It was all
internet.
public info.
For going there,
Right? Yeah, a YouTube, a talk that he'd already done that was on YouTube, right? Like,
yep. Which by the way, I mean, when that
they were
came
still
up,
pissed at him over Wikiscanner. I'm convinced.
it was so interesting. I wanted to go. Of course, I wouldn't because like and I joked with some like a couple of the people that were in our project early on. It's like, hey, we have an event for you. Are you willing to speak? And this guy is always willing to speak. And I told him that because it was a joke.
Yeah,
I was like, we're gonna see North Korea.
I used to go on Facebook and do a check-in at North Korea's airport. Just freak everybody out. Like can't believe the layover at this place. And you just type in, that airport, North Korea, and
Pyongyang.
You can check in wherever you want to. And it's like, oh my god, what is it like? It's like, oh, it's great, man, it's fine. We better get to the last question though. We only got a few minutes.
Yes.
Yeah, we should do it.
Yeah, is there another question? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, AI. Okay. So, that's right. So this is blockchain future, right? So, AI being the new thing, taking away from focus or attention, and the world I've been told is now an attention economy. Attention is more important than anything else. So will we ever recognize that decentralized systems are better at many things versus centralized AI options? So what are you guys' thoughts? I have a lot of thoughts on this. So.
I think that first it sucks that they've decided to spin AI as a new thing, because like 99% of the ideas behind it were invented in the 40s and 50s, and we're just like finally seeing them in production because computers caught up with the ideas in terms of what they could do. But like,
Scale.
you can credit the connectionists with coming up with all of these. Let's emulate the human brain. There was actually kind of like a big project to get thinking computers built back in the 40s and 50s, right? Where they were saying the academic elite behind it were saying stuff like, "Give us 10 years, we'll figure it out."
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And
Willy Wonka
and the ideas they came up with would have given us what we have today back in the 50s if the computers were fast enough and capable enough.
Yep.
Right. So it's not new. That's point number one. Point number two is the narrative is useful as a way to distract people from things that might be more disruptive. Right. If you want to distract the people who are into adopting early, point them at something that looks shinier.
Yep.
You don't want them involved in blockchain. Okay, let's wave AI around. The other thing is they work better together, right?
They do.
Anybody who wants to go to wormgpt.co can go there and find a completely guardrail-less large language model that operates just as well as ChatGPT, with one exception. It has absolutely no retraining. It's just a black box model that they give you everything it's capable of with no limits. And
What's
the
it-
only way
what
to sign up
link
for
in
it
that
is to pay
context?
with crypto. So, so the two are complementary when they're at their very best.
That's great. That's great. What do
I
you
was
think,
thinking
Sean?
that too. They're complementary, but also, you know, we've all said not everything needs a cryptocurrency, and not everything needs a blockchain.
I
I
disagree.
think that's like the one thing that AI could helps with. You know, is kind of pointing out that and where people get it.
Yeah, and I would say though, in my opinion, everything should be economically, and whether or not you have a token applied is beside the point. But if you put it on blockchain, um, that you already have, politics inside of a company is an economic consideration, and if you can make it measurable and transparent, then the politics go away and efficiency comes, and everybody has a better life as well. That you don't have boss asking you to do something that you shouldn't be doing because they could fire you or whatever, right? So lots of cool things like that, but I also think that this is with AI, it's interesting to me because essentially, I think what Greg says is totally correct. That the tech has been there forever. It's of course going to improve with new hardware, new computer capabilities and scale. But the fact that you have SEC Chair Gensler giving us tech tips on how blockchain really is not the most important thing that's been developed in this decade.
Mhm.
It is AI, and it's like what the hell does
He's trying
he
to
have
douse in their
in his role?
boring, muddy water of obfuscation. He's
It's
trying to put it
so
all in
I will
policy.
say it is a move more than anything else. In yes, there's some technical capabilities that are new, which is cool, and or at least implementations, but the real innovation has been financial, and it's a narrative that look, this is where all the money's going. And you talk to anybody trying to raise money for a startup right now, they'll tell you that no money's going anywhere because the economy's turning to shit. No one's putting money into anything except AI, and so everybody's trying to
Add
transform
AI
what
to
they're doing
every
into something.
project.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're doing something with
Yes.
AI.
It
So
wears me out.
it's and the reason I think is that the banks want to distract from the blockchain. The banks and powers that be, whatever, whoever it would be, want to distract from this technology as it is a way to track history with
Mhm.
proof and a way to essentially give power to the normal people.
Right.
But
It's
they
but it's
can
definitely an
control.
op. Like
They
anybody
can
who doesn't think
control
it's
AI.
coordinated.
AI is centralized, and they can control it behind the
Right.
scenes
They
without
can
you knowing.
continue their
All they
same
have to do is
games.
don't train it on those pages. Don't train it on that information. Oh, it has discovered through some combination of other information that this is the truth. Censor it, right? That's as easy as it is, and that's what they already do. We've already seen it with ChatGPT and others. One can only hope that Musk's side of that whole thing comes into play at some point. That it's and maybe what Greg mentioned with that other project, things like that are
Worm
already happening.
GPT, man.
Yeah.
They actually
Can you
use
put
a
the link in the
blockchain protocol.
comments?
They use a blockchain protocol to buy their compute too. Like their compute is a distributed compute. I
That's
forget the name of the
awesome.
project, but it's an AI
So
based. I met the guy who built it once actually.
So here's the
At
thing.
Youth Demo.
What the interesting thing that will be is will an AI sufficiently set up like this choose to rug pull? Right?
That's
Well, the
a
AI
good
is
question.
I have a question for you guys. Could AI programming, I'm talking about Asimov's 3 laws, could they be programmed into a blockchain to where they could not ever be changed?
Probably not.
So there's
Because
no real way to create like Asimov's 3 laws.
You could within that.
we can't
context.
solve the problem of AI alignment using brute force. Because by definition, an AI that gets smart enough
It's
will work its way out of any prison we try to put it in.
Yeah, and that's why I would say the answer could very well be something like a behavior system, but where AI is the the actor. That essentially the AI will only have as much power as its history and what do I want to say? Uh, its way of being, as demonstrated over time, has been in the positive, in the good, right? That essentially, if you uh, give a power, and this is I'm pulling this pretty quick, so there's probably a lot to talk about here, but um, you could very well. That's what we do with Den, right? That the people and maybe they're bots, who knows? That the people who do provide the best content or the best evaluations will have the most power to do what they're wanting to do, to propose stuff or vote it in. And so if he did something similar, and the reason that it's important, and the reason it is different, and it is a very abstract thing to talk about, but the reason that it's important is that it is a voluntary behavior. That is, the people don't have to, they could walk away and it's like you not get any of those rewards, or they could choose to do the things that get them penalized, and they get penalized. It's up to them, totally. And that's important, and it could be very well important for something like this, because if you built the platform or the infrastructure that all of an AI's training and all of its actions have to go through those smart contracts, then yeah, you could limit it that way, right?
Right. You just can't limit what it does once it
right.
gets to a certain degree of intelligence.
Right. It might do something outside of that context, for instance.
Right.
Right.
It can change, basically, once it can change its terminal goals, or change its instrumental goals to meet its terminal goals, you're in trouble regardless, right? Like, even if you give an AI, for example, a directive that's plainly good and decent, right? You tell it to, for instance, try to build a future in which all human beings smile a lot, right? That can go horribly wrong as soon as it figures out how neuroscience technology works, and it can capture us and put electrodes in our brains. Right?
The first Batman was Michael Keaton, remember?
Yes.
Right. Exactly. The control problem is, or the alignment problem rather, is a big hairy mess. Like, I don't know if you guys have read much Nick Bostrom, but his work on that is telling. There's no good answer to the problem of alignment yet.
I don't know if y'all are watching Foundation, but
yes, love it.
Yeah, me too. It's amazingly awesome. But that Demerzel has me, that's what I was wondering. If the three laws that Asimov always talked about are possible, or if they could, always be changed.
Yep. I mean, the three laws were ultimately a first stab at the alignment problem, right? And the people who think about it today start there, and then they move forward to.
And if you look at it, even in the narrative of sci-fi, it is always a hidden requirement that causes an AI to kill humans, right? That the government will put some. You can't tell the people this. But you have to execute this mission that Hal will end up killing the humans because the humans are getting in the way, right? I have to get to Jupiter, right? So anyway, and there's
Mars, occupy Mars.
Yes, yes. We really ought to. Although Mars would only be, even if we made it to Mars, if AI gets, if you get a super intelligent AI on Earth, it won't be long before it comes for us if it decides we're a threat. And that's ultimately the problem is human beings will shut down an AI that it perceives as threatening, right? So an AI that's doing threat analysis will inevitably arrive at the conclusion that human beings are a threat to it achieving its goal that's been given.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right, unless we design the goal right. And because of that, you have to account for the possibility that at a certain point of intelligence, it's going to come for us as a way to neutralize a threat that will go for the off switch.
Yep.
We almost have to build the system in a way that it can't perceive us as untrustworthy in a way that's dangerous to it.
And I am for AM brings up a good point. And I would even say go beyond this. This is first time we've had programmable money that does not originate from the government. And without third party a third party between the transactions. And I would say it goes beyond that. It's the first time you've had a way to measurably prove something. Okay, it would cost a lot of energy, billions of dollars, to fake this, right? That's been my thing forever, and and that's why it's more important than AI, because AI could definitely use that. I mean, the training of AI should be on blockchain. People should be able to see what the AI has been trained on and what it's censoring, and all variety of things like that. And it isn't, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, and predictability is another item. That it was one of the first things I recognized. I was like, wow, that's so cool, because I knew in history when the Spanish galleons came back to Europe with all this gold, it crashed the gold market because there was so much gold. And with Bitcoin, it's a beautiful thing because it's not precise, but you can predict with a lot of deterministic truth that how much Bitcoin there will be at a certain point in history, which you can't with gold, right? So it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I do think that that decentralized compute is going to be a really important thing for the future of AI too. Like the fact that that Worm GPT exists at all, for example, is thanks to the fact that they were able to buy compute using a decentralized approach, right? Because there would be, as soon as like Google or Microsoft or whoever realized that there's somebody using GPU capacity to train this free AI, right, that doesn't have any of the guardrails that they want to force on you, they would shut it down, right? They would turn it off. But if you're using decentralized compute,
that's pretty
what
crazy.
can you do? You can't point guns at a decentralized network.
Well, and theoretically, that system, since it's decentralized, should, if it is providing good information, or if it is providing a service, right? Yeah. It should be able to grow its presence. That is, take up more and more capacity of that decentralized compute in order to provide better answers, and find the answers that most need answering, and make money. You would think. I don't know how they have it set up economically, right? Where the funds go, but that's interesting.
Yeah, it's I think the project's name, by the way, was Eleuther. It was the one that they used to train yeah. So it's here's also the link through. This is the project that I think serves as the nexus point for the two technologies that I've seen really succeed.
Cool. Okay, so we got past, present, future. Do we miss anything in there that we should cover? What do you guys think?
We're ready for current events.
Current events. So the current events of all of this. So who wants to start with that? Does anybody have notes taken? Because I don't even know all the stuff.
What do y'all think about Russell Brand?
Oh my God,
Pretty
he's
obvious.
getting so rat fucked. It's not even funny.
I'd always worried if he was controlled opposition, but I don't. I think it'd be hard for him to be that, right? So, but he's just so well connected to various entities in the crazy old blood world that I'm like, I don't know. It seems odd that he would be saying the things he's saying, given his family connections and everything else. But who knows?
He's being deplatformed.
Oh yeah.
So
they're using the one that they used against Assange very effectively.
He'll be on Rumble. Yeah, this is.
Well, they said that. Yeah, but I thought those charges were dropped against him today.
There were no charges ever made.
Yeah, there were never.
Oh, allegations.
Yeah.
What did they?
Yeah, you make the allegation public; it's sufficient, right, to defenestrate somebody.
Yeah.
Well, Rumble said they wouldn't, and that's where his real content is, right? He does it's an interesting model because he would do the YouTube for however many, like 20 minutes or something, and then he switch it over. Says if you want to hear the rest, you have to come to Rumble because you can't save this on
right.
YouTube.
The problem is he was effective.
Yeah,
he was very effective. He would not tell you anything. It was very good. It's like a sales tactic. He would ask you.
Yeah.
It's not like 9/11's inside job. Just be like, what do you think about this? Do you think this is weird?
Yeah.
Kind of weird. What do you think about that? Do you think that, jet fuel can melt steel?
Yeah. I like his style. He did an entire thing on the Australian, I think it was Merck that was being questioned. And that was very interesting video because wow, the amount of stuff that he throws out there. And yeah, it's very much just, this happened. What do you think about that? Do you think it's it's crazy.
Wasn't it weird how consistent the playbook is that they roll out against people that they're trying to take out?
Yeah, it's one could call it lazy or weak, except the fact that they hold so much power and they have, again, limited money. I will tell you, I would say every ill that exists in the modern world is sourced from unlimited money printing. Mm-hmm. I would say generally anything that you could bring up, health, economics, entertainment, all of the bad things that ail us today are entirely based on that. That is the thing that has to go. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's going to happen. Right. Well, I mean, another Andrew Jackson, essentially.
We've got to get, I feel like we've got to we have to not give up. Right. That's point one. Yep. Right. We can't get to where we're going in a way that isn't going to have some conflict to it. And unless people come after us and literally point guns at us and tell us we have to stop trying. Yeah. All they're using are discouragement tactics right now. The whole point of it is to make us lose heart and give up. So we stop trying to build the thing we're trying to build.
Yeah.
If we keep going, if we build it,
that's the truth.
Then they won't be able to stop it once it's complete.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know about
so we
YouTubers.
Just have to keep going.
I know. So I don't know. Sean, Lisa, you could say this, but if this is the truth or not, but I know for projects like, say, building Dragon Chain, building Den, building Eternal, building all the things that we've built, it's constant. It's like, look, you're not going to get any funding. Guess what? That customer that was very interested, something happened. They're not going to come on anymore. You spent 6 months trying to sell them on this. Not going to happen. That employee, yeah, they stole your email. They're trying to, embarrass you with something else. These guys are accusing you of something you can prove you didn't do. Do you have the heart to say it in public that you didn't do this? It's like constant and never ending. And it's obvious, but at the same time, it's like, okay, at some point you're thinking, why the fuck am I doing this for this country? And why the fuck am I doing it for these people when nobody gives a shit, right? The very people you're trying to help don't give a shit. They'd rather, like, I got my NFL and I got my Big Mac. That's all the fuck I need, right? And, frankly, it's like, I would rather leave this country right now from what's happened here. But it's not any better in most other places.
But Joe, that's then you're believing the bot numbers, not the real people. I don't believe that that our country, these people. I mean, yes, I know that bread and circus and and I hate football specifically. So I feel your words are stinging my heart because I do understand what you're saying and I do believe you have a point. But if we don't stand up for the reason that they left Europe and they came here, our founding fathers and not just so much focusing on the past, but where are we right now? And what do we want for our families in the future and freedom? And if you find out there's a chain around your neck or around your wrist and a log against your neck, throw it off. We have to do this. We have to do this, not for someone else, but for our families, for ourselves. And that's why we're doing it. I'm not doing this for the guy with his hands down his pants watching football. I'm doing this for myself as a free individual. I'm doing this for my family. And for those that want to stand beside me, great. Let's link arms and let's do it together. But if you don't want to get up off the damn couch and be an adult and stand in the fight, then, that I can't do it for you. But we have those that are willing to do it. I want to be there in the fight with them. I want to do this with them.
I agree.
And we can't give
my
up hope.
friend, my buddy came over the other day, Thursday, Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday. Anyway, as I said, I agree with it, but the Eagles did beat the crap out of the Vikings this week, and we're watching the game. And he was like, why aren't you, so much more, like you used to be? And we're sitting in my living room that has a giant Eagles rug, and I have the Eagles totem pole. And, but I'm like, I don't care about the NFL as much. I love the Eagles, they're like my Cinderella team. Loved them since I was a kid, but I don't want the NFL anymore. The NFL is what I don't like. And you talk about not giving up. I posted a link to Twitter from the governor in the chat. Maybe you pull it up. Man, you can pull it up. But the governor put razor wire across parts of the border, and then the president or former vice president had them cut the wire. So then that's a fight. But then, the governor sent actual troops to repel. But it says send the Texas Guard to repel illegal crossings. Now that's not the National Guard. That's the Texas Guard, which is a separate entity. But the only thing that could happen at that point, which no one seems to make a big deal of, is that our own federal troops or law enforcement would have to stand up to our Texas troops. So when it comes to like not giving up, I think that's where we're at. I mean, we're just a tick's hair away from the boogaloo. Just that's where we're at, man. We have tit for tat. Where now it's like it's going to get real, or you're going to back down.
Well, and the only thing that's going to wake people up is knowing what's going on with the children. And when that does break out to more than just the Christian community going to watch Sound of Freedom and seeing the soft version of that horror that's happening, and I think that's coming with the cargo report that's coming on 9/23. I think that we're going to have a lot of information come out, and I hope it sickens and ignites everyone in this country to stand up and say enough, and we're done using children as a commodity. That's when it ends.
I hope so, but I don't. I've become so jaded that I think people will just glaze over and be like, it's impossible.
The positive though is, and I've seen this several times in the past. Like I've been in crypto since before anybody knew anything about it. Even when Bitcoin wasn't even something you could talk to a neighbor about, they wouldn't know anything about it. And seeing it move through where it's almost kind of annoying. It's like, yeah, but you don't really get it, right? But still, it's a positive thing, even though they don't get it as much as you do. That they get it at all is going to be enough for move. Because what is it? Is it? I think it's the studies that 10%. Once a culture has 10% of its population believing something fully, it will in time cover
the mass
everyone.
adoption curve.
Yeah, the mass adoption will happen. And
Right.
I will tell you some of the stuff that happened because of Assange, because of Snowden, because of Glenn Greenwald, because of the real heroes in the media that have done things like that. A lot of people were converted. I mean, a lot of people said, "What? No idea." And you had stuff like random anonymous stuff on 4chan that has panned out. where, people who are well placed, post something, and what you choose to believe it or not, but a lot of it checks out and people note it and save it. And when you go back and you're like, oh, and some of those were literally saying, yeah, they treat people like cattle. That was one of the first things that was
right.
very
Well, not really,
eye-opening
not even
to
so
me.
much like cattle, more like sheep. I feel like it's more like wool that they're harvesting. It's a thing you can shave.
Well, you
as
could
opposed
say
to a
that,
thing
but
you
I don't know
slaughter.
that they want to keep us alive long term either. So,
Well, I mean, they'll reduce the population given remorselessly reduce the population if they feel like we have too much wool. So,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're going to kill the cattle, keep the sheep, sure, right?
Right.
But yeah, they're constantly going to be harvesting somehow, some way. I mean, you think about it too. People right now, people will complain about how little distance their money goes these days, right? People are starting to feel the effects, and all the numbers that are reported are fake on inflation and everything else.
Inflation, yeah.
And so, at some point, people will tend to pick it up when they can't afford anymore to do these things that they should be able to. They're making more money than they ever have, but they can't afford to pay anything. And everybody's a slave. How many people do you know that that aren't really old, that own their house, that own their cars without a loan payment? How many,
Even
like
then,
that
you
don't have
don't
to
really
pay?
own it because of the taxes.
Yeah.
Where I
Yeah.
live, it's like not a big deal, but
Oh, yeah.
this was, mind you, like 40 years ago when my aunt and uncle told me. I think they were paying like $25,000 a year just in tax, on property tax.
Yeah.
It was like mind blowing. So for what they're paying in taxes now, it's like you could buy a house,
Yeah.
a new house in Texas every year, like a nice house.
Yeah.
And
then all those houses, by the way, are being bought up by the groups that literally are funded by the unlimited money. So it's just kind of a crazy place to be in, where the whole world isn't up in arms. That's the hardest part for me to believe, is like, how long does it take people to freaking wake up and say, it's like, okay, guys, we can't do this anymore. And by the way, we're not a republic anymore. Our Congress, we've seen in crypto directly, other industries the same way. Our Congress is asleep at the wheel. They're just letting the SEC do the things they do unconstitutionally or otherwise. Doesn't matter. Like, oh, well, I got my check from JP Morgan, so I'm good with whatever they're telling me to do. Yeah, give me that law, write it up for me. I'll put it in, right? Which is ridiculous.
It is.
And we haven't even gotten into the healthcare industry, right? It's like even worse. So,
Which is
Yeah.
now, Big Pharma now runs our farms that we eat off of.
brother.
Why is Big Pharma growing our food?
Well, I mean,
that
to
should
a certain
concern
degree,
everyone.
it's,
I got my bills from being in the hospital, and my lab, or my medication is more than the hospital stay. It was like $50,000 in medication, and I was wondering, every day the doctor come in and put me on a new medication. Every day he's like, "Oh, what'd you take this to?" Oh, and it was like, "Oh, you need this powder," and that's prescription. "Oh, your legs looks a little dry. Let's get some ointment." Boom. And also, they would take my blood 4 a.m. I suck. I could never sleep. 4 a.m. they come in and stick me, take my blood. Those were just, they're literally just racking up money, and bills. They don't need to check my stuff every day. It could have been every 3 days. I check my
It could have been
INR.
at 10 in the morning.
Yeah,
right?
well, I check my INR because I take blood thinners once a month, and they were testing it every day, and I'm like, "Why are you testing it every day?" They're like, "Well, like
We can charge for it."
Yeah. And then when I got my bill, I understood. I was like, "Oh, lab, $48,000, medication.
Well, you've seen the whole
$52,000.
You've seen the what was it? I can't remember. I wouldn't say it anyway. One of the pharmaceutical companies that had a presentation where the subject of the presentation is, does it make financial sense to cure this illness? Right? And it's like, no, it doesn't. It makes financial sense to make a drug that will keep them ill, and they'll keep taking the drug, right? Yeah, that's the way it works. I never used to think that, but
I also got a bill from the ambulance company that dropped me.
Oh, geez.
No.
My God, are you? How's it?
How much do they charge you to drop you?
It was like $2,500.
Wow, that's a lot of dollars per meters per second.
Yeah,
Jeez.
And then I think, and I can't get a lawyer. No one will take the case because it's weird.
What?
But,
Really?
yeah, not one. I've called like a bunch, but I had to go to the emergency room. I was supposed to go to the cardiac department in this hospital. But when they dropped me, they're like, "Oh, you've had this fall and you're hurt. You have to go to the emergency room." So all those costs, it's their fault. They made me go to the emergency room and get, the scan, the X-ray, and everything.
It's part of their plan. They drop all their patients now because they can rack up more bills.
Wow.
Insane. Completely
the world is insane. Chaos is coming. This is just the beginning. There's gonna be crazier stuff
It's already here
next
month. So
I was gonna say, if this is not chaos,
anything else we should bring in?
Have you guys seen the this is interesting, have you guys seen the latest on the shadow ban algorithm over at X?
No.
So there were some new things revealed about the way that the algorithm works, using a little sub library that's published open source called TweepCred.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and this thing was updated recently. Apparently, and this is the big takeaway that I got from it. The number one thing that you can't do if you don't want to get deboosted is like and retweet without comment.
Wow,
if that's all you do,
problem.
If that's all you do, your account will get flagged.
Wow.
Yeah, that will immediately.
If you don't comment,
no, if you like and retweet, the like combined with the retweet alone is a signal they use to deboost.
Are you supposed to do one or the other only, and maybe reply every time?
Like is a boost. You should never really retweet. Basically, instead of retweet, you should use quote.
Quote.
Even if all you say is like LOL.
That's trash.
Wow.
I don't know. I think it's a shit system. So
they're gonna get rid of it if Musk isn't full of shit. So
well,
but I've been waiting on that train for a minute. I'm wondering how long it's gonna take to get here, because that was something apparently came up back in August that I just found out about.
Yeah, I know that it's a freedom speech platform is BS, because I posted a video with Dr. McDaniel talking about obesity being the real pandemic, and I showed the Minister of Health or whatever that thing is, and his family, and they blocked my video. My mom was like sending me screenshots, and I retweeted and said, "Hey, Elon, not allowed to talk about obesity on X," or something like that. And then I could see it. My video was visible to me on X, on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. It sounds so stupid. But my mom she was like, "Lisa, I still can't see it." And then my friend Johnny, that I do a show with on Thursdays, he was like, what was the show yesterday? He's like, I couldn't see it on Twitter. And so they were letting me think that they didn't block it, but it was still blocked to everyone else.
And that's the unmagic of it. That's why I'm bullish on Warpcast right now. The Farcaster network has a really great app out there called Warpcast that is basically taking all of the best features from Twitter and mimicking them, but doing so on a federated protocol. So
but how do you get the community over there? How do you get
crypto? The crypto Twitter space is moving that way.
Okay.
The folks who are on Warpcast right now are all
crypto Twitter.
There are people that have .eth, .sol, .whatever after their names, and they tend to be people who are working on building projects. But I think that's probably where it's going to grow from. It's a cool place to be. Trust me, I've been having more fun on that than I've been having on Twitter in a long time.
I went to the doctor this week, and it was really weird. I was in the room, and there was a big thing on the back of the door about obesity and like all the bad stuff for it. And I was like, I literally for a minute, I was like, oh, I hope he doesn't get in trouble for having that up there. Fine. And I think that. But yeah, you can't say that it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
We had someone notable used Eternalize This, although it's down right now because of Musk's illustrious API changes. Stupidity, bullshit. And by the way, what kind of a freaking design is that? Oh, you can have free where you can just do tests. Okay, you can pay $100 a month. That's pretty reasonable, but you can only get this count, no matter what type of a bot it is. And the next level is 5,000 a month. Like,
right, they're trying to, and obviously the goal is to forestall. Like, he's obviously doesn't care about the collateral damage associated with taking out some people who are adversarially scraping information from Twitter.
I mean, maybe if I didn't like and retweet everything, I could mention him and say, hey, I'm not an NBA player, but I don't think I should have to pay for this, and maybe he would do that. Yeah, bullshit. Linda Yaccarino would say, "Oh, we don't want our history being tracked."
What they need
the history of,
Anyway. To me, what they need is they need to charge everybody a little bit for a Twitter account, and then from there, or for an X account, and then from there, you should be able to pay for bot variants that are a little more expensive. Like, the point is, I think rather than having a free access that is limited based on favors, I'd rather have it for sale.
Yeah, well, I'd rather have some form of governance rather than an arbitrary CEO saying, I think this. Boom, that's it, right? It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably part of why crypto has been regularly deboosted on X since he took over, because all he sees of crypto are I'm Elon Musk giving away crypto scams. Once those bots gone, and doesn't probably dig into it much more beyond that, doesn't realize that his rules against that tend to nerf other projects that are really good.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's probably the truth. It's weak and lazy, but anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was that's one. I guess maybe the last thing I would bring up is the Steven Nerayoff deal. Who can explain that better? I've asked Mr. Huber, which he should follow, by the way, on Twitter. Mr. Huber.
Mr. Hoover.
Huber.
Mr. Huber. Okay, so what is? I haven't even heard of this.
Yeah. He's just a Swiss guy that does investigating.
Well, no. I mean, like the thing you're bringing up. I don't know what you're talking about yet.
Stephen Nera was apparently grabbed by the FBI. I might not understand this to detail, right? I've been trying to figure it out.
What you posted, Joe, it's not coming up.
This is the first I've heard of it. So.
Did he delete it? He might.
Says something went wrong. Retry.
It shows up for me. He called out Eternalize This, right? Eternalize This, the bot's dead. We didn't make it, which is an interesting point even for our legal case, that someone independently made the Eternalize This bot, used the API for Eternal to do this stuff. So anyway, the Steven Nerayoff, he was apparently grabbed, and they wanted him to give dirt on all of these crypto figures, including a lot that are obviously legit. And they were, I don't know what they were accusing him of, but they were threatening him, right? And he eventually beat them in court, had it all dismissed. And he either has dirt on the SEC, or dirt on Ethereum, or dirt on their collaboration, which, I think a lot of us now, it's a known thing. It's admitted that Joe Lubin was giving the SEC information on which projects they should go after. And you think about that. You're going to go to an industry leader and asked him, which of your competitors should we go after? And it's like, oh, let me think. Who's the most threatening? Who's the most needle in my side, right? Thorn in my side. And I don't know this, but I would be willing to bet, especially since we were, like top 25 ranked crypto at the time, that we were on that list. We know that Ripple was on that list. And you think about that, and this dude is still out there. They haven't gone after him. It's like, oh no, we have clarity. We have clarity. We can have an ICO foundry. We can launch these anytime we want because we're connected, right? Or because we paid the right lawyers who bribed the right officials. It's pretty disgusting. And this guy apparently has some dirt. We don't know where it's going yet, but it's super interesting. And there's a lot of stuff that's getting really kind of crazy about this. So anyway, he tried to eternalize this, and I felt bad. I did reply to him. I stored it manually, but the bot's dead right now. We actually.
Yep. But you can still go to the eternalizer page and paste the link in manually, right?
Yep. Well, you can't do it with Twitter. The Twitter link.
Not with the Twitter bot, but you can take the
text in. You can scrape websites still. And we've talked about possibly just I was willing to throw in $100 a month. I just don't know if is X going to start charging everybody, in which case it's all going to fall apart and not going to be worth the time, or who knows?
Yeah, well, they've got to come up with some way, because there are some bots that I miss, man. There's some good ones.
Yeah, there were some really good bots. Yep.
Yeah, and clearly, I also think that if anybody, you can say one thing about Elon Musk, is that he liked Twitter enough. Like, part of the reason he bought it is because he liked the platform. And I imagine that he probably misses some of the bots that his own policies have banned as well, if he was reading it regularly. So,
I mean, they should have at least put in a grant program or something where they wouldn't even cost them any money. Say, hey, if you go through to make a proposal, we won't charge you. And keep the bot.
Also, I would say, and I can point you to the guy, by the way, who does Warpcast. You should get Eternalize This up and running on Warp.
Oh, okay.
That'd be super cool.
That'd be great. We would do that for sure.
If it was on there, I'd add it all the time, man.
And Eternalize, Eternal. So eternal.report has, I don't even know what the count is, but it has tens of millions of transactions, both people posting in information or documents, or people posting in tweets. Like, say, I think we have a great number of tweets that can no longer be found anywhere else, right? Banned accounts and stuff. And
what would be cool to do would be to set up like a subscription service that gave people a digest of what was coming in as a way to fund the bot.
Yeah, if you have ideas, we're talking about that right now. On if you could pay a subscription, then you would have carte blanche. You could use it as much as you want, but we still have these stupid limits, and they're pretty small. They're pretty low, and so we could do stuff like that. But it's kind of bizarre with that API. It doesn't really work well, right? Anyway, I think there are better ways to do, including with monetization. There are better ways to do what he's trying to do. But he's a genius, so we have to be all gung ho about it. So anyway,
I think that the one thing that we have to remember is that his modus has always been Mars, right? Like, he's always been Mars first, right? Everything else that he's done has been about getting to the point where he could get a rocket there.
That's the narrative. I mean, his original payments platform when he got on with PayPal was nothing to do with Mars.
But I mean,
he wants to make money. He's doing the thing. Yes, that's his declared narrative right now.
Right. I would be willing to bet that he will sacrifice anything else to get Starship off the ground.
I think, though, if that were true, he wouldn't have bought Twitter. All this distraction. If that were actually true, he wouldn't give a shit about Twitter, because it doesn't have anything to do with helping.
But Howard Hughes probably wouldn't have built that giant wooden airplane either, right? Like,
unless Mars,
you have to account for these people being idiosyncratic weirdos.
Yeah,
unless Mars isn't a planet in the sky that he's trying to get to, unless Mars is something else.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. I don't,
Whatever
Howard
is, let's hope
Hughes-
that it's not
Howard Hughes
going
was
to be based on
unpredictable,
representative
much like
democracy when we
Musk.
get there.
But Howard Hughes was also. No one claims he had a single thing that he was going after, right? He was just
Right.
he was interested in all types of things, which I think Musk is, and that's why I don't quite buy that, and that's also why I don't think that your question
Well,
a couple weeks ago.
I'm not
would you
trying
choose-
to defend the actions recently. I'm just trying to say.
Well, and that's the thing.
Passionate,
like,
weird people who make a lot of money at things like that tend to have quirks that make them inscrutable sometimes.
Yeah, well, that's why I mean, he buying. I appreciate that he bought Twitter, because the Twitter files are it's valuable. I wish they would just freaking release them so that all of us could look at it and not just selected journalists. But still, it is interesting, and but I still know there's some very odd things with Linda Yaccarino as CEO. Makes no damn sense if we're to believe the narrative of what Musk wants. Doesn't make sense. There's something hidden. We all know there's something hidden. What is it? Was it just his negotiating to okay, I'll put
It could be as
money
simple
to
as not
them.
wanting to die, right? Like he has kids.
Right. So but that then leads to all the rest of the stuff that he's doing is compromised. So if that were the case, right? Because none
he
of the rest of the
announced
stuff
his
is not
Neuralink.
controlled, right?
Neuralink's supposed to be available to humans. That announcement came out yesterday.
Yep. They need blockchain for that. I mean, you think about the security implications of putting something in your brain.
It's insane.
I think you do. But
I'm looking at my Twitter home, and Musk is talking about 2 million people from every country on Earth are entering the U.S. borders. He got videos and pictures, and how the legacy media is not talking about it. And another thing, there's these huge protests in Ottawa with thousands and thousands of kids and parents protesting sexual content in schools. But the governor just issued an order to President Biden directly.
The Texas governor?
Yeah. That he's deploying troops and DPS and local law enforcement, that we're going to build a border wall and marine barriers, and we will be repelling migrants.
I think all that stuff is just to alleviate some pressure. It doesn't necessarily have to go anywhere if he says he's going to do something and they do something that's it's visible. Oh, I saw them go down there and, on the camera. But yeah, whether it's real or not, who knows?
Well, I guess we'll find out. I mean,
okay. We should probably close out. You guys.
Yeah, I suppose we've covered most of the stuff.
So, how are we going to start? Sean, what's going on? What are you? Sorry, I wasn't back for your first week back last week, right? So it's good to see you back. So
yes, last week was this. It's my third week, I think.
Oh, is it? Oh man, I've been out. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, Joe, you've been out.
So what's up?
Got a new show that me and Kiss are doing. We're going to be looking at new projects that are coming up. Trying to find those hidden gems. Some innovation. I think the next run is coming, and hopefully we're going to have a new resurgence in good ideas and good projects. Check out me and Lisa on Tuesdays for Truth Tuesday, and other stuff. Subscribe and all that.
Cool. Excellent. How about you, Lisa?
I'm gearing up I got my tickets booked and my hotel booked, and I'm bringing my little accounting tiny best friend with me to Vegas, and we are going to be at the Silver Symposium September 29th through October 1st, and G. Edward Griffin will be speaking, the guy who wrote the book Creature from Jekyll Island, to your point earlier, Joe, about 1913 and all the evilness that went on there. the creation of the Fed, and lots of other influencers. Economic Ninja is going to join me for my happy hour that will stream live from Caesar's Palace on Friday night. So join us if you can.
Excellent. On the 23rd, no less, right?
29th. 29th
Oh, okay.
through the 1st. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Greg, what's new?
Hey, we've had an exciting week. There are going to be some really neat stuff coming out of the Decentralized Infrastructure Network meetup that happened in NYC. Austin was at. I've been on calls all week with this thing, and it's moving forward. And this is exciting in a lot of ways because, despite the sense of pessimism that one can take away from all of the seeming stagnation in forward progress on ideas that really make a difference. Decentralizing the infrastructure is going to be a big part of that, right? Getting to the place where people can permissionlessly build stuff that pisses off the establishment and they can't do anything about it. That was the whole idea behind blockchain. And right now it's stopped because we saw what happened to Parler, right? I think the Parler moment killed the people's willingness to go out and try things that punch the establishment in the nose.
Yep.
And this is a big piece of it. I don't think it's the only piece or the last piece, but I think getting the infrastructure out of the hands of a small few and getting it into the hands of so many people that you can't point guns at all of them to stop it, that's going to change the game. And that's what we're working on building right now. And it's really exciting. So I can't wait to share more details. I can't share a lot yet, but I can't wait to share more.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
In the meantime, if anybody wants to build something that punches someone in the nose, we'll do our very, very best to protect you over at rivet.cloud. So sign up, build something revolutionary, and trust that when they come for you, it won't be through us.
Does it have to be violent though? They don't have to.
No, it's not violent.
Okay.
I'm not saying violent. I'm saying something that nullifies violence. Really.
Okay.
This is the ultimate form of pacifism is innovation.
I'm joking. I'm just joking.
So,
no, that's awesome. I totally agree, and it's a good positive angle on it. I mean, I will say there's still a tremendous amount of opportunity out there in this industry, and I think a lot of people aren't looking at it, or a lot of people are probably kind of just writing it off as well. It's under attack right now, right? It's too risky. You think about it. I went into a project 5 years ago thinking this is the right thing to do. This is good technology. It could be good for people. It'll be good for companies. It'll, all the things that we could do. And now I feel like I'm just bogged down, being attacked from all angles from the people that, I've paid their salaries over all these years, right? And it's just disgusting, right? And so I'd have to think twice if I were to go, and yet I do still think it's the right thing. And I do still think the opportunities, in the few, like say 10 years from now, I think a lot of this BS will be resolved. I think, right. I hope. People just need to still look for the opportunities and look for the things that are needed in the world, because, not the, next, apes in a wallet, or something that's really usable and useful and valuable for the world we find ourselves in now. And build the tools, right? That's what Greg's constantly doing.
Cryptographically secured free markets are the ultimate form of nonviolent resistance.
Yep, exactly. And I do think that is the thing too. You have to get everything down to that level where it can be transparent, and it can be free, right? And not free as in beer, free as in freedom. So that's the thing, right? So all right, well, that was awesome. Thanks all of you for joining, and thanks to everybody watching. We've got a lot of great comments too in the chat today too. A bunch of people I've not seen before. So
hi Mom.
Yeah, thank you all to the commenters, especially those of us like I am who are busting out some really, really thoughtful things. G-Chin for the adversarial perspective, even though a lot of people disagree with you a lot. The fact that you are unafraid to say it is noble. Keep saying it.
I linked my chat with the show.
Yeah, you guys rock. Thanks for saying stuff. Don't be silent, whatever you do.
Right on. Well, so here, I'm going to get through. Let's see.
And my mom's in the chat. Hi, Mom.
Yes, hi, Nana. She said that I'm looking good.
That's awesome. So make sure you join us again next week, right? Same time. Next week's theme is digital asset custody insurance. Is that correct? I think that's right.
Neat.
And make sure you get it. Go into Den, join the layer in Den. Make sure you get some questions asked. Make sure you vote on the questions that are asked as well, so that they get ordered correctly for the show. And make sure you share this episode so that all the people who ask questions and the people involved, get lot distribution based upon the share counts. And that's about it, I think. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment, like, do all the rest of that. So anyway, thanks a bunch. We'll see you next week. All right.
While nuclear weapons states can exert unlimited violence over even millions of individuals, strong cryptography means that a state, even by exercising unlimited violence, cannot violate the intent of individuals to keep secrets from them. Cryptography is the ultimate form of non-violent direct action.